This is a Guide Your Light Network production, creating podcasts with purpose. Hey you, welcome back to the podcast. Just before we jump in, I wanted to let you know about something exciting I have been working on. As you might know, I'm incredibly passionate about helping people to find and share their voice, especially if their voice is one that aims to create positive change in others' lives. So I've been working intentionally to bring that mission to life, and I have launched a podcast network with purpose. It is called the Guide Your Light Network, that features podcasts and voices that inspire, educate, and transform listeners. And we have a library of podcasts that are part of our network that truly embody that mission, and we are looking for more. If this has sparked interest in you and you are ready to start exploring speaking and using your voice in this way, I'd love for you to check it out. If you have something important to say and don't know where to start to bring that to life, we can also help to hold your hand to craft your authentic message through our Guide Your Light sessions, where you can get super clear on your intention, messaging, and structure needed to launch a podcast of your own that is authentically you. Just head over to guideyourlightnetwork.com to find out more.
If you keep comparing yourself to other people, you will never be happy.
I've yet to find anything the mortal body can experience that the mortal soul can't love. I have yet to find anything that somebody's been through that can't be turned into a fuel of opportunity.
I say we never arrive at anything. I'm never going to arrive and say, I am now the most incredible leader of all time. We are on this journey of learning. And as we grow, we learn.
Anybody here listening has taken psychedelics will know that there is no control. And the whole point is letting go and leaning in. And that's scary. But that's the scary is where the healing happens.
It's not just about food. We're still not seeing results because there's a shift of mindset that needs to happen.
You get knocked down, you got to get back up. And so part of that process is having a broken heart. You need to talk about feelings. But generally, most men, if they're not having a broken heart, they don't need to talk about feelings. And this is where psychology has misled us.
Hey everybody, I'm Maritza Barone, and this is the Things You Can't Unhear podcast. Has there ever been a moment in your life where you heard or read or were told something that you simply could not unhear? Something that caused you to make positive changes so that you could become the best version of yourself? Well, we share this show with access to inspiring and empowering humans who will motivate you to become the happiest, healthiest, kindest, and most compassionate you. Sit back, settle in, and let this be the day you hear something that simply cannot be unheard. Hello and welcome back to the show. Now, today we're going to be talking about finding meaning in our work and using and spending our time in the best possible way to create more space doing the things that we love and avoid that feeling of overwhelm that so many of us experience on a day-to-day basis. And to have this conversation, I welcome our very first husband and wife duo to the show, Melissa Ambrosini and Nick Broadhurst. Now, Melissa is a best-selling self-help author of books such as Mastering Your Mean Girl, Open Wide, and Comparisonitis. She's an entrepreneur and the host of the top-rated podcast, The Melissa Ambrosini Show, amongst many other things. And Nick is a musician and former member of the ARIA award-winning band Sneaky Sound System. He's an entrepreneur, an author, and as we learn in this chat, he's a man of many, many talents. So whether you are building or running a business, working for someone else, or running a household, overwhelm can creep up on you pretty quickly. You might often feel time poor, like you don't have enough space to do those things that you enjoy. That feeling of never reaching the end of that to-do list and those endless open tabs in your head from work tasks to life tasks. These things need to be addressed. I feel like we can't go on living in this state of overwhelm forever. Now, Melissa and Nick have recently written a new book together called Time Magic that helps us to discover the surprising ways that you're losing time and the simple techniques to reclaim it and even make more of it, if that is at all possible. In this conversation, we discuss practical advice and actions to free up more time in your life, what life can actually look like when we create more space, how to hack your everyday longevity and health, productivity systems that help you to manage your life and your time, such as Nick's new tick or flick system. I love that name, it's very clever. And how we can make technology work for us and not against us. And I actually share some quite frightening stats around this that I think we really need to be aware of. Nick has retired from email recently. Wow, he no longer has an email inbox because he's created other systems to manage that information workflow. That sounds very exciting to me. If it doesn't sound possible in your life, Melissa actually reaches inbox zero every single day. So that's also a very exciting possibility for many of us to potentially look at achieving. So let's jump into this conversation with Nick and Melissa and learn some practical advice on how to create some time magic in our life. Welcome, Nick and Melissa, to the Things You Can't Unhear podcast.
Oh, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I love the title.
Yes, I love the title too. 4 years on and I still love it very much. So yeah, this is how I want people to feel. I want people to leave this, listening to this podcast and having heard something that they simply cannot unhear. And they are sort of urged to make positive changes in their lives. And I know this is what you two are all about. You are working endlessly. It's your purpose, it's your mission to create positive change in other people. And I think this is such an aligned chat. So it's great that you're here. Where are you joining me from? Because I know it's stinking hot where you are.
Well, we are neighbours to you, which is so exciting. So we are on the Sunshine Coast and it's about 5,000 degrees today.
Yeah, the humidity is peaking. So bear with us with a bit of sweat dripping off our foreheads, everyone.
Especially me.
Yeah.
Before we hit record, Mel's like, Nick, you're sweating a little.
Yeah.
And he's like, well, it's hot. That husband and wife banter. So you're working together, you're living together, you're creating magic together. How do you do that? Are there bumps along the way?
No, it's perfect. Smooth sailing, always just rainbows and butterflies.
I'm noting some sarcasm there.
Yeah, a little bit. We never bicker. We never get frustrated with each other. No, look, it's an ongoing process of learning how to live and work and parent and do all the things that we do together. I would definitely say we're not perfect at it, but we are always willing to learn and try and be better. And sometimes we're, not great. And sometimes we're awesome. We go through stages, I think, and it depends on how much we have on our plate as well. We do tend to sometimes put a lot on our plates, and that's really the main issue for us, I think, is when we have too much on our plates. Other than that, we're actually fine working together.
Yeah. We talk about this in our books and in all of our work and on our podcasts that we've done together. We have done a lot of internal work ourselves. And I think that's a really important piece in any sort of partnership, that you have two willing, committed people who are constantly showing up and doing the work themselves. When they come together, then those really big fights, they don't seem to happen as much as when you are unconsciously just going about your day in a partnership, if that makes sense.
Oh, I relate to that incredibly. I'm in a 26-year relationship, met my husband when I was 17 years old, and we have definitely grown along the path together, but there's been major peaks and troughs, and there were those huge fiery moments before we really understood any or had any tools on how to communicate in this way when these things do pop up. And I feel like you said, you do the work and then the fights aren't as intense and they don't last very long, and you communicate afterwards and it seems to fizzle out a lot easier than when you're just holding on to things. So I love that you're both doing that and it's allowed you to work together in this capacity. Now, I found your work, Melissa, when probably 5 or 6 years ago, someone handed me Mastering Your Mean Girl, and I'd sort of pushed away the self-help world. I'd been involved in it in my early 20s, and then I weaved out of it, and then someone gave me a couple of books, and I think you were the third self-help book when I was like thirsty for it again. I'm like, bring in this stuff. This is gold. And I remember how much that resonated with me, because as a presenter and working in the media myself, I was very similar to you. You were working in the media industry too and doing work that wasn't aligned to you, and it just didn't spark you up. And I felt the exact same way. And reading your words really had a profound effect on the way that I approached my career. And as a result, now I speak about the things that I'm only aligned with and that excite me, like this conversation. So there were definitely amazing steps that you provided, but I want to get your advice, both of you, on how people can take the first steps to achieve a more meaningful life that is more purposeful, because so many people out there are doing jobs that they don't align with and aren't happy with, and they're just ticking the boxes and paying the bills. So for people listening today who want some more meaning in their work, what are maybe some first steps that they can look at identifying to move forward?
I think the first thing that you can do is know that you are worthy of doing something that you love, because there's no point in moving forward if you have this deep-seated belief that you're not worthy of doing something you love, or that's reserved for other people, that doesn't happen for me, then it's not going to succeed. So you really do need to look at the beliefs you have around doing something that you love and dialing up your worthyometer and knowing that doing work that you love absolutely possible for each of us. You know, when we're no more special than anyone else, and we all have gifts. Every single one of us has magic inside of us, and it's our job to share it with other people and to help other people along the way. And so I think that is definitely the first place to start. And then the second place, once you've really worked on dialing up that worthiness and really knowing that it is possible for you, getting clear on what it is that lights you up. Like, what is it that you actually could see yourself doing and making money from? Because there's different things. There's like things that you are happy to keep as a hobby. Like, I love yoga and it is such a big passion of mine. Do I want to be a yoga teacher and make money from it? No, but it's something that I'm really passionate about. So I'm happy to put yoga in the hobby category and not in the category of making money from something that I love. So get clear on what you're happy to keep as a hobby and what you're potentially interested in making money from, and then go exploring. Like, what is it? Is it music? Is it podcasting? Is it art? Is it pottery? What is it? And go exploring and ask yourself these deeper questions. Like, what can I see myself doing? What do all of your friends come to you for? Is it health advice? Is it business advice? Is it relationship advice, parenting advice? Like, what do people come to you for? Because that is where the clues are, you know? So, and then also tune in with yourself and ask yourself, like, what really, really lights me up? Like, what would I do if I was not to get paid? Because if all of the money went away, I would still be doing exactly what I'm doing now. I would still be writing books. I would still be podcasting. I would still be speaking. I would still be creating content, live events, all of those things. I would still be doing that. And I'm sure Nick would be doing exactly the same as well. So ask yourself, what would you do if money was no issue and if money was just taken off the table completely? What would you do? So these are a couple of big questions to ask yourself at the very beginning.
I love that. Nick, what about you? I mean, Mel has talked about the fact that she's gone through a journey and you know, worked to find her purpose, and so did I. You've been involved in music forever. Was that something that you were always passionate about? Were you one of those lucky people that just knew what you wanted to do from the minute you were born?
I wouldn't say from the minute I was born, because I know when I was about 7, I wanted to be a geologist. So that definitely changed. But when I was about 8, I knew. So it was pretty early. And, you know, I was, I guess, a little bit unusual for an 8-year-old, because I would get into my bed at night and I'd get underneath the duvet. What would you?
Doona.
That's a British thing, isn't it?
Yes.
And I would sneak my Sony cassette player. It was red. It had 2 cassettes in it.
Whoa, 2?
Where you could record.
Whoa.
Yeah. And,
heavy.
And I would play 1930s big band and Glenn Miller Orchestra and Charlie Parker Jazz and these sorts of things as an 8-year-old, which is super, I think that's kind of odd in some respects. You don't really think about 8-year-olds pulling in this like 1930s music.
And just caveat that his parents weren't jazz musicians or anything like that. So it's not like he grew up in a house with jazz music playing all of the time. Just at 8, he decided to get under his duvet and start listening to jazz music.
When you know, you know.
Yeah, so it was very young, and then I just had to find how was I going to express that. And for me, initially it was flute, and I thought, well, that's not cool enough. So I had to prove to the orchestra leader at school that I was good enough to get to a different instrument. So typical me, I was showing off. I decided to learn this really long piece when I was like 9 years old, and close my eyes and play it. So he noticed me. So I was playing the whole thing with my eyes closed, and he's like, "What were you doing this?" And I was just showing you that I've mastered this thing. I want to move on now. And I moved on to saxophone, and that was where it all clicked for me. I found this really a voice. It was literally my second voice, and I was instantly drawn to being more of a solo artist, so standing up and taking all the solos in the bands and doing these things. So that led to being in a lot of bands, creating a lot of bands. And then in my early 20s, kind of stumbling into the very early days. I think Sneaky Sound System had been going for about 4 or 5 months. And excuse me, then I met Damon, the MC, and they invited me in. And then that was a 7-year journey of just craziness, you know, the whole thing that happened with Sneaky Sound System. And so that was awesome, but see, that wasn't my thing. It was music, but it wasn't my music. I was a part of it. I had some input, but it wasn't really my baby. It was someone else's baby. Yeah. So I decided to leave because I didn't have that sort of creative input that I wanted. I went more into the corporate space for a while, and honestly, it kind of just crushed my soul. And I had to get out. It actually made me very unwell as well, physically. And I found my way back to music, and it was not until I sat down at the piano and played 2 notes that led to one of my songs called Little Lover. And it was when I wrote that song, I knew that I was going to be a solo artist. I was going to be a singer because I had never sung before. So it was definitely a journey. And I was going to add to your question before about people, you know, finding their thing and doing their thing. For me, a really good indicator is when something feels scary and really big, and like you have a massive resistance to doing it, you're probably on the right track. Because I don't know many people who just like magically flow into their dream thing and it just falls into their lap. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but my experience with most artists is it's not easy. And they really have to work at it. And I think that resistance, what Stephen Pressfield calls it in The War of Art, is a huge indicator that you're on the right track.
And I just wanted to add something as well, you know, and we talk about this in Time Magic. You spend over 13 years of your life working. Like, and the
Crazy.
average person lives till 79. Okay. And 13 years of those are spent working. So when you think about spending or wasting 13 years doing something that you hate, like, I'm just like, no, life is so precious. And we talk about this so much in Time Magic. And so I just wanted to, you know, inspire everyone listening that it's 13 years of your life. And if there is resistance, like what Nick was talking about, don't waste another second. Like, lean in, go for that thing that you want to do. Just go for it, because life is precious.
Just to add to that, because it might sound like, okay, average person is 79, 13 years, I must have heaps left. Actually, it's not the case, because you have 26 years that you're actually asleep.
You guys have done the maths here, and it's frightening.
We worked with a statistician to figure all this out, and there is up to 13 years on your phone, including social media. There's 9 years watching TV. There's almost 4 years eating food, for example, right?
I'm happy with that one.
Yeah, same. I can up that one.
Me too. I do. This does make me want to throw my phone out the window, though, listening to those social media stats and those television stats, that's for sure.
Yeah, it is scary. And when you zoom out and you look at what's left, because we were talking about 13 years at work, but when you add it into the whole picture, to do the things we love, which is spending time with family, being of service to other people, with our loved ones, vacations, all those things that light us up, time in nature, it's 1.12 years on average.
That's all you've got left.
What? That's wrong. So this brings us to this conversation, and I'm glad you brought it up, Melissa, is where are we spending our time? And a lot of us, like we said earlier, are spending our time in roles and jobs and positions and situations that don't light us up and don't make us happy. But then we've done the work, we've found the purpose, and we've started to build areas in our lives that are amazingly on par. But then we get the overwhelm. And this can happen a lot because you get so excited. You've created something new. You're on this purpose path. It's all flowing. It's feeling amazing. Or you're trying to build something from the ground up. And then you start to lose your quality of life balance potentially. So I know you guys talk about this in your book, Time Magic. And it's not time management. You're not preaching about managing our time. It's creating magic from the time that we've got, right? Tell me how this was born. Is it one of those moments where you had to learn the hard way and you worked too hard and then decided, hey, we need to have a lesson around this and that we can share with others?
Well, originally, the way that the book was born was we have so many of our friends and family members and clients and coaching clients, and so many people in our life would come up to us and say, how do you guys do it all? How do you have multiple businesses? How do you still have a thriving relationship? How do you have children? How do you do it all? And I'm not joking, like this is a common question that we would get from our friends. And to be honest, like we would kind of like scratch our head and go, well, we just do it. Like we just, doesn't everyone know how to manage their calendars? And doesn't everyone know how to optimize their time? And it became really aware to us that no, not everyone does know how to do it. And when we got together, it's almost like this magic happened. This magic happened that we just started creating so much magic in our personal life and in our business. And we clicked so into each other's lives so well, like we complemented each other and things just started to flow very effortlessly in our lives. And we just thought, oh, doesn't everyone know how to do this? Doesn't everyone know how to live with a partner, work with a partner and make magic? And yeah, the answer was no, they don't. So yeah. Do you want to add anything to that?
Well, I think you nailed it, because really, for us, it's not always been this way. Like definitely before we were together, we've both had our times of being extremely overwhelmed and being in the complete opposite. So we have had to learn the hard way. There was a period where I was in the corporate space and I didn't have time to have quality time with my son, and it was heartbreaking. I was always distracted, always on my phone, always doing the next deal. So we've definitely come through the school of hard knocks with this, and Melissa's come through serious overwhelm, and we've kind of worked it out together. And there's just some common things. Like for me, for example, I've retired from email. And
we talk about how to do this in the book. Which is, he literally teaches you in the book how to retire from email. I haven't retired from email, but he has. And, it's just something simple like that has transformed your life.
It has. It's more time for me to be writing music. But even just the most simple basic things, like when you're working with, and it doesn't have to be a working partner, like a working relationship. It can be as simple as a husband and a wife or partners sharing calendars and knowing where the other person is, what they're doing, not having to constantly check in and what are you doing this day, what are you doing that day. There's such simple things. But Time Magic, as you said, it's not a time management book. It's not about trying to squeeze more into the day at all. It's about doing what you're currently doing it way more efficiently and creating more space, because what we didn't want for people was to get to the end of their life and only have that 1 year. We want to create a lot more time for people. But then we also in the book go into how to create more years, how to add years to your life. We have a chapter called Everyday Longevity, which is super fun. And it's literally things you can be doing every day, mainly for free, that are proven to make you live a lot longer. So it's not time management. That's why we call it Time Magic.
And also there's a whole section on health hacks as well. So the health hacks and the Everyday Longevity chapter are awesome, because like Nick said, it's not about extending your life but then not having your health, because health is wealth. And so we teach you how to spend those later years in your life thriving.
I love that. I want to jump back 1 second about the retiring from email, because I know people can get absolutely swamped with email. And I run a podcast network. I've got numerous clients on board. It's growing and growing, and I'm starting to feel the overwhelm with emails. So with me, literally last week, I've just started rolling out Trello workflow boards, for example, that have minimized my emails significantly. Are these the type of things that you talk about in the book? Is it like practical advice like this?
Oh,
It
it's
is
all
literally-
practical,
it's
step by step, like literally step by step, practical things that you can do, like getting a a password manager, because so many people just have their passwords written down on pieces of paper all over their home. So having a password manager where you can just click and it saves all of your passwords saves you so much time. And also you can share that with your team and with your partner. So Nick doesn't ever have to come to me and say, hey, what's your Instagram password? I need to get in to do something or whatever. Or what's your Gmail password? Never, ever, ever have to waste time having that conversation. Same with the calendar thing that Nick mentioned before. He never, ever has to waste time asking me, hey, do you want to go on a date this Saturday? He can just look in my calendar and see, oh, we're free. We can do it. You know, so there's these little things that really make the most difference. It's like these little moments that just add up.
And speaking of, sorry to interrupt you, I was going to say, speaking of practical tips, there is a system which I actually developed called Tickleflick. And Tickleflick is a productivity system, and it's taught step by step in the book, and it literally teaches you how to run your entire life in the most simple way. So you can read a whole book on how to manage your time. So time management, right? There's whole books on that stuff. My goal was to try and teach that in 3 pages. And was it 3 pages in the end?
I can't
I can't
remember.
Hey, because people are time poor who are reading this book. They don't want to be reading chapters and chapters on the same topic, right?
Well, that's definitely something that we were thinking about the entire time as well. We were like, we're writing a book about time magic. We don't want people to waste a second. So like every word was thought about. Every word is intentional in this book because we don't want to waste anyone's time.
Yeah, in fact, we make a promise in the first chapter or in the introduction that we promise that this book will deliver more value than any other book in less time. That's our big promise for the book. So one of the things, so there's the Tickleflick system, which is awesome. Like it's literally life-changing. When you actually do it, it changes your life. And when Melissa comes to me overwhelmed, I'm like, can I have a look at your things, which is an app?
Which we talk about in the book.
And I look at it, I'm like, well, you're not doing it properly. You know, that's why you're overwhelmed, because you're carrying too much in your head and you're not managing these things in a way which is going to get it off your plate, like get it out of your head. So much overwhelm comes from the fact that we don't know how to organize our thoughts. And when we can organize that stuff and get it out, and you've got a system that's reliable and that you audit regularly, the overwhelm can go overnight, just like that. And we also go into email. So in terms of, yes, you can retire from email, 100%. But you can also get to inbox zero every single day. And there's some really amazing hacks in this on how to get to inbox zero without being overwhelmed. So it is extremely practical. And we're very proud of that because we think that there's not that many books that go into this level of detail, but do it in a way which is really easy. Like we went through this so many times. We reread it, edited it over and over and over again to make sure that someone could even listen to it in an audiobook and still understand how to do it. So if you're looking for that, you're going to love it. Trust me.
It's a lifelong goal of mine to get to email zero. So
Babe,
the book's on its way.
Well, the thing is like in the book, we talk about how that's what I do. I do inbox zero every day, and Nick has retired. And literally I get to inbox zero every single day, every day. And it's through the system that we talk about in the book that allows me to have that. And so, you know, not only that, I have like text messages, I have Voxer, I have DMs, I have email, I have so many things. We all do. And if there is not a system in place, we can feel super overwhelmed and stressed. And I know, you know, as a mama as well, like that can creep in very, very quickly if we don't have a system. And so for me, like I'm doing the dance between mum life and working, and I need a system. And so it's in the book if you guys want it.
Yeah, this is so timely, I think, because like you said, there are platforms coming out of platforms. And if you miss a notification and that little red one is gone, you can totally miss a message and miss a task and miss an opportunity. And it happens to me all the time. And, you know, I love that we are still using technology to manage technology. It's so great. And it makes sense. I do want to talk about the flip side of that too. So yes, we've created these platforms, we've created this technology to help minimize the effect that all of these notifications are having on our lives. How can we step away from the technology to clear our minds and manage our time magic?
I think it's important to make a clear distinction that technology is a weapon of mass distraction, but it's also a weapon of mass liberty and freedom because if
Very
you use
true.
it correctly, it can really free things up. So we make the distinction in the book between those two things. There are times where you need to step away. I think social media, I'm just trying to find the statistic, it's several years. I think the average teenage boy in their lifetime will spend up to 12 years on social media of their lifetime, who are born, now, who are sort of going through puberty now. I mean, that's shocking. So there's a lot of talk in the book about boundaries, and it's not in a way which is not fun. It's actually super liberating when you bring these boundaries in. So yes, boundaries around technology, also understanding what essential technology you can use that is going to liberate you and free more and create more time for you, because that's ultimately what time magic is about. It's about creating a more spacious and fulfilling life, and technology is a really important part of that. So we definitely don't skimp on that in the book, but yes, there are times where you do need to step away. You do need to have boundaries, for sure.
Yeah, healthy boundaries are essential for yourself and for your children. Otherwise, you just get sucked into the digital vortex. And we all know what that feels like. Like, we're exposed to more content now than our, grandparents were ever in their entire lifetime. We're exposed to way more. And like we said, it's overwhelming. It's a lot. And so we really do need to set healthy boundaries. And we talk about what those healthy boundaries are in the book. And they are a game changer.
I do worry about this. I mean, my brain is an adult brain and I can hardly handle the amount of technology. And then I've got an 11-year-old and a 13-year-old, and they've grown up with this technology and social media and all of this in front of them every single day. And I'm worried about the statistic of how much time they're actually going to be ending up spending, how many years spending on this. But setting those boundaries is so important. And you end up sounding like the dragon who's always asking them to switch off and keep your levels in place and self-monitor and teaching those strategies. But these apps, this tech is built to be addictive. Even we're addicted to it, aren't we?
Absolutely. This is why we need the healthy boundaries.
Yeah.
Otherwise, like I said, you'll just get sucked into that vortex. So we need it. And then we need to live it and embody it for our children, because they don't listen to what you say. They do what you do, right? So there's no point in you saying, time up, get off your phone now, if you're constantly on your phone. We have to model the behavior that we want to impart on our children. And, since having my daughter, I am so much more aware of my behavior and the words that come out of my mouth, my actions, everything, because she is watching everything that I do and say. And technology is such a great tool, but it's also, it can suck us in.
Okay. So when you're away from tech, how do you guys de-stress? There can be methods that really, I know that you potentially meditate on a daily basis and all of those things. So how, when you are feeling overwhelmed, do you step away from all of that and just ground yourself? What are some methods that you can share with us?
And one of the best ways, certainly, in terms of your health and your mental health as well, is just time in nature, whatever that looks like for you. Now, for me, most definitely is surfing, or even just going to the beach and lying on the beach. We're fortunate to live on the beach. To me, that changes everything. I can be incredibly overwhelmed and stressed, and the minute I put my feet on the sand or jump in the ocean, it's gone. It's literally a miracle cure for just about everything. It's so incredible, that time in nature. And that's why so many cultures have done forest bathing, where you literally go in the forest and you just lie down, you soak up the negative ions, and you wash away that positive charge that you build up through the day of, standing on artificial ground and being around these devices. You can just discharge that so quickly by being in nature, which is why it has such a profound effect when you go outside and you put your feet on the grass. How it instantly feels like something changed in your body is because it did. You just discharged all that positive energy. And that positive energy or the positive charge, is what creates disease, essentially. So time in nature for me would have to be the most important thing. And on top of that, just working out in nature, being outdoors. I don't go to a gym, I work out outside, and just being in that environment and feeling strong and fit and working on flexibility, mobility, all these sorts of things make me feel like I'm living my life. I'm actually a vital human being. And I want to get to 100 years old and still be playing with my great-grandchildren. I really do, or beyond 100. That's certainly my goal. And I think these days we have the information and the knowledge to do that, as long as we do the little things every day that move the needle.
And I want to echo those two things, like time in nature and working out. Absolutely. That is how we de-stress, we ground, we come back to our center whenever we're feeling off center. That is definitely one of the ways, or two of the ways that we do that. Also, meditation definitely is such a big one. Like you said, we are huge meditation advocates, and we talk about that in the book and the science behind it in the book, which is really important. Other than that, for me personally, dancing really helps me de-stress and get that stagnant, stressed or overwhelmed energy out of my body. And, whether that's just dancing with my daughter or, just dancing around by myself. And then also having time away from the device. So just saying, okay, we're having family dinner and, there's no devices and things like that. So literally time away. And on the weekends, we really try to not be on our devices as much as humanly possible. And we're outside, we are outside as much as we possibly can. The only time we're really inside is when we're working on our laptop. And we've often thought, how can we set up a standing desk outside that it's not too glary so that we can actually see, we're working on something?
I often think that too. So please birth that creativity around that. I think food is a big one for me too, if I was to throw that out there, because if you are walking away and having a break and going out in nature and doing all of the amazing things and then come in and have a Big Mac and a donut, you're going to start feeling that sluggishness and that tiredness again. So I know that you're both very healthy eaters and advocates of that well-being lifestyle in that holistic way too. But it births creativity, doesn't it? Doing all of these things and allowing the space and time to set yourself away from the doing to the creating happens when you do these things. So I look at the things that you have birthed. There's books on parenting, there's books on comparisonitis, there's books on relationships, there's books on time magic. There are endless new pathways that you keep coming up with, guys. Where does it all come from? Where do the ideas come from?
It's often when we're walking.
Yeah, often when we're walking, but
yeah.
It's really
It just comes.
personal experience.
Yeah.
Personal experience. For me, the books is all just personal experience. Your music is all personal stories or things that have happened to you in your life. Something that's happened. You'll write a song about that, and our personal interests and passions. That's definitely where it comes from. And I think, we just keep showing up. When the muse comes knocking, we take note and we sit and we write or create or whatever it is. And I think that's a really important thing. What a lot of people do is they might have a spark of inspiration and then they let their inner mean girl or their inner bad boy convince them that they can't do that thing, or they're not good enough, or they're not smart enough, or who do they think they are writing a book? And, I've had those thoughts, but I've moved forward in spite of them. And so has Nick. And I think that's a really important thing. You can acknowledge that they're there and then you go, yeah, but I'm going to still go forward anyway.
Do you think it's worth mentioning that whenever Melissa has written a book, and this is definitely true for Time Magic as well, so there's Mastering Your Mean Girl. So when she was writing that, the biggest thing she needed to learn in her life at that time was how to master her mean girl, right? So you teach what
it's not so much while I was writing it, it's when I'm promoting it and it's coming out.
That's true. Sorry, that's true. It usually is written in a place where you've been through the experience and you've studied it and you have a lot to share. But when it comes time to releasing it, the lessons come in really hard. So that was Mastering Your Mean Girl taught you
how to master
massively.
my mean girl.
And then during Open Wide, our relationship, which is a relationship, the Radically Real Guide to Deep Love, Rocking Relationships and Soulful Sex, our relationship was the rockiest it's ever been when that book came out. It was really challenging for us. In fact, during promoting it, there was nights where she was on the couch. We couldn't even be in the same bed together, just for a lot of different reasons. But
and we spoke about that on our live tour, which we did together to promote the book, because he wrote a song called Open Wide and I wrote the book Open Wide. And so on the tour, we spoke about this. And then when I wrote Comparisonitis, when that came out, I was going through the biggest comparison journey of my life. And now Time Magic, whilst promoting Time Magic, I feel the most stretched thin that I have ever felt in my entire life. And we are both being called to really practice everything that we teach in the book, because it's like the universe is like, all right, you want to put a book out about this? You want to put a book out about time magic or relationships or mastering your main goal? I am going to really test you to make sure that you are walking your talk. And I think it's a beautiful test. And we're at that point now where we're like, this is happening
this
again.
old thing again.
Yeah.
Almost expected it. But I will say that I think a good sign of a book is when the authors are reading it themselves, because what's next to our beds right now is this book. Because we want to fully embody that which we teach in the book, because right now, as Melissa said, we are being stretched. So what are we going to do? Are we going to get overwhelmed, or just go to what is now what we believe the Bible and just relearn what we've sort of forgotten over the last few months, because it's all in there. And that to me is a really good sign, because it's like my music. I don't often listen to my music.
I do.
I know you do. I mean, I do when it first comes out, and then after a while I just don't listen to it anymore. Not that it's not good, but with the book, I think, there's so much in here. You can kind of just open it on any part and you'll learn something really interesting. But no matter what you're experiencing in your life, there's going to be something in here that can actually move the needle. And it's not theoretical.
Live what you preach. Melissa, do you listen to your own podcast?
I have to, so I do the first round of edits. So, once the editor has stitched it all together, then he sends it to me to listen to it to make sure it's all good. I know a lot of podcasters don't do that, but I am perfectionist.
I was wondering what word you were going to choose.
Yeah. When it comes to my podcast, so I re-listen to it and then I make any edits. If there's I hear a door slam in the background, I'm like, hey, you forgot to take that out. Or if there's something, that needs to be taken out. So I re-listen to every episode. And I'm not joking you. I take notes because I'm interviewing some of the world's best people. So I am taking notes and I listen to them back. So I think that's a good sign when you do that.
I do it too. I listen back after when it's actually released and in the airwaves, and it's just a completely different seat that you're sitting in, because you're not sitting in that seat as a host and thinking of your questions and having the conversation. You're actually listening and taking in what other people hear. And like you said, we're having people on our shows that are such amazing thought leaders and change makers that we have so much to learn from them. So it's a great thing. Listen to your music, Nick. Melissa, keep listening to your podcast. What was the process like writing a book together? Because this is the first one you've written together, isn't it?
Yes, this is our first book that we've written together, and we work very differently. I am a generator. He is a manifesting generator. So generators, and I'm an Aries generator. So you give me a task and I will do it and have it delivered to you 2 days before the due date. I just set myself on something and it is done. Nick, on the other hand, being a manifesting generator, he has his hands in so many pies. Literally, he has, if I told you that, he's building a home at the moment, he's got his music, he's doing a music school at the moment, he's launching this book, he's got so many things, so many balls in the air, and that's how he thrives. And when we first got together, I used to say to him and not really understand, I'm like, why don't you just pick one thing and do one thing? He's also invests in crypto and other companies and things like that, and then he's, the CEO of my business, so he literally has 5,000 things going at once. And I literally said to him, why can't you just do one thing? But that was me projecting my stuff onto him. And it wasn't until I studied human design and astrology that I realized that that's actually a huge gift of his. And so I now embrace it. I'm like, it's beautiful that he is so passionate about so many different things. And Nick is one of those unicorns that whatever he touches turns to gold. He truly is good at everything. He's one of those.
I'm not sure everything.
Well,
I've had some lemons.
yeah, but he's one of those people that you're like, really? Are you really good at everything? Like, are you good at like coding and like random things? Like he knows how to like design something. And I'm just like, okay, so now you're a graphic designer. Okay. Like just the most random things. Like he'll just figure it out and he'll do it and he'll excel. And so for me, like writing this book, I wrote my chapters way before he wrote his. So I'm like waiting for him. I'm like, just write the damn book. And then, you know, he gets it done and he excels, but in his own time.
Well,
so
it was still on time.
it still was on time. But for me, that was a little bit frustrating. But then I just kept on reminding myself that that is how he operates.
So did you break it up in chapters you wrote one, Melissa, then Nick, you wrote another one. Is that how you structured it?
We pretty much, yes, but there was input on every single chapter from both of us.
We kind of did like a big chapter skeleton.
Yeah.
And like we both put everything that we wanted. So under like the everyday longevity chapter, there was heaps of things that we both wanted in there. And then we said, okay, you go write that chapter and I'll go write this one. So there was input from both, but then, we went away and wrote it. And then we just finished recording the audio version as well. So we read one chapter each, which is really cool because I've never heard any authors do that. And it's really fun and playful and such a great listen because you're getting inserts from me and then it's very playful and you get, you know, inserts from Nick and it's just really, really fun to listen to. So if you prefer to listen to audiobooks, then you can get the audio version.
Nick, did you find it such an enjoyable experience as much as Melissa did, writing the book together?
Honestly, I love writing. I've also written a novel, so I've got a romance fiction novel coming out. And
wow, you really can do everything. This is ridiculous. You're annoying.
I know, it's so annoying.
It's a curse, trust me.
A blessing and a curse.
It's a blessing and a curse because ultimately my greatest calling is music, and then I get pulled in so many directions because I don't know. It's like entrepreneurial ADD or something. I just enjoy doing lots of different things. Which is, mind you, why I had to develop Tick or Flick, the system of basically getting stuff done. It was just essential for me because I had so much going on and there were so many other systems I had read about, but it was just too much. It was too complex. I needed something simple. What do I do next? I either tick it or I flick it, right? And that's why I had to develop it because I was finding myself getting overwhelmed with the systems themselves. So a large part of the book came from me wanting to share Tick or Flick. It's like, I've got to share this with the world. It's so good, you know? But the writing process is really fun. I actually love it.
He's a brilliant writer.
Oh, thanks, babe. So are you. I really enjoy it. And I'm looking forward to doing a lot more. I think maybe in 10 years from now, I'll probably sit down and start writing a lot more books. But now it's very much about music and promoting time magic for me.
I'm looking forward to listening to the audiobook actually, because I've heard you both speak together on the Melissa Ambrosini podcast. And I love how Melissa constantly is hanging shit on you, Nick. I think it's very entertaining. So hopefully there's a little bit of that in the podcast, in the audiobook as well. Well, if we could end on maybe 3 tips for people today who are feeling the overwhelm at the moment and want to do just 3 little micro shifts that will change 10% of that overwhelm, what can you tell them?
I think the first one is batching your emails. So that's something that's definitely been huge for me. Not having your email open all day, every day, 24/7, and constantly pulling you out of the present moment and pulling you out of your deep work. So batching your emails, checking at 9 a.m. and for half an hour, and then checking again at whatever it is, 3 o'clock, whatever times you choose. But batching emails is a huge weight off your shoulders and will alleviate so much stress and overwhelm. Absolutely. And it's so simple.
Yeah, I think as well, one of our coaches, our business coach, taught us what he calls the default diary. And it's basically making sure that your days are organized. You've got your time allocated. So if you're going to spend time in nature, put it in your calendar. If you're going to go to the gym, put it in the calendar. Also have your work things in there and you have different colors for each thing. So I know if something in my calendar is blue, generally something I want to do for myself, whether it's music, whether it's working out, whatever it is, that's for me. If it's green, it's a meeting. I know I have to turn up for something if it's green. And just even having that simple color coding for me was a game changer. Now, Melissa doesn't need color coding. She just likes it all in pink and it works for her. But I think this default diary idea, I personally need that. I need structure in my day. Otherwise I can get pulled in too many directions.
And then the third one, to piggyback off that, what Nick just said, is have a joint calendar with your partner. So like Nick said, he has his 2 colors. I have my color pink. And then we have a joint calendar, which is called Us, and it's yellow. And so anything that is involved for all of us in the family, it goes in yellow. It means both of us have to turn up. It just makes life so much easier. So I can literally turn on Nick's calendars on my computer, on my phone. I can see what he's doing. I don't ever have to ask him, can I book this meeting with you? Or can you do this at this time? All in the calendar. So getting a joint calendar is essential, and one for the whole family.
I love that. They're great tips.
And just to add one more, because I just can't.
Okay, let's go with 4.
I've got to say it. I have to say it because it's so important. It doesn't matter what you're working on in your life, whether it's profession, whether it's health, whether it's relationships, spirituality, everything will improve when your sleep improves. Everything. And I think it's the lowest hanging fruit for every human being is to improve their sleep, unless they're shift worker, of course. It's more challenging. But there are some simple things you can do, especially the 3-2-1 rule. I'm not too sure if you've heard of that, where you stop eating 3 hours before you go to bed. You stop all screens 2 hours before you go to bed, and you stop drinking all liquids 1 hour before bed. And if you just stick to that, it's so simple. And we do go into a lot more detail with sleep, such as wearing blue blocking glasses indoors at night. And it's interesting because I had my producer from LA come and live with us for 2 weeks recently to finish my second album. And he was looking at me with these yellow glasses in the afternoon going into evening. He's like, what? And he put them on and instantly was like, oh, these feel so good. And I had to give him a pair because he literally became kind of addicted to the feeling of not being overly stimulated before bed. So,
and he's staring at a computer all day long, mixing music. So for him, he was just like, this is heaven. Why have I never tried these before?
And these are simple things and not super expensive. And there's so much in the book you can do that costs you nothing. It's just a matter of, well, we have a saying, the easy things are easy to do, but they're also very easy not to do.
Mm-hmm. Like switching off the TV 2 hours before you go to bed. I think
Correct.
A lot of people are
It's
going to
one
complain
button.
about that, but that's just one button.
Or just do what we do and you don't have a TV.
Yeah. Well, ours rarely gets turned on anymore either. So it's I think it's a lot easier when you live in a warmer climate, that's for sure, which we have the beauty of up here. Back in Melbourne where I used to live, and it was sort of close the door, it's freezing, and get inside for 6 to 8 months of the year. So embrace where you live if you live in a warm climate, and get outside as much as possible. Thank you, both of you, both a wealth of knowledge. You're so high vibration. You've got beautiful smiles on your face. Thank you so much, both of you, for your time today.
Thank you so much for having us. It's been so much fun.
Thanks for listening to the show. What did you think? And what did you feel? Let us know by leaving me a message on the Things You Can't Unhear Instagram community page. And if you can, give us some ratings love on your favourite listening platform.